right. Soccer Dad Pod. Coming in hot, talking over the music. Otherwise, the copyright police come and take my episodes down. So
that would be bad.
It's not good. Then I have to fight them all the time. But we're back. Soccer Dad Pod over on the east side, the right side of the river, so I say. And I can say that today because my usual carpool co-hosts, they are nowhere to be found. They are somewhere over on the far western edges of St. Louis County somewhere. As I mentioned, I'm on the east side. I'm back at my alma mater at the Homestead.
Planet
Granite. Literally about 130 yards total from my first home, 2200 block estate. It was, we'll talk about this in a second.
Yeah,
then.
I'm Mitchell boy. I can't do that.
Well, Mitchell's not even Granite. Well, let's get that out of the way right now.
I mean, sorry. My apologies to everyone.
Coming in so everyone, you've noticed, who is that voice? Never heard that voice before. Well, you would be correct. I was going to say long-time listener, first-time caller, talker, but apparently he doesn't even listen to the show, just kind of trolls it on Facebook.
I do. I read all the intros, and I'm very impressed with the amount of talent that's been on the show.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Joining
me, a fellow class of 93 warrior who just admitted that he's not really from Granite. He's from Mitchell, but he went to Granite City High School. It's the same thing. You know?
Correct.
Mr. Ben Hicks. How's it going, Ben?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm good. What do you think of the music, by the way?
I like the choice. Are we allowed to mention it?
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Doors?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it down real quick so they don't
fantastic.
bang me. Yeah. I played that in an interview because I remember back in the day, you kind of were what was the book? What was his book that you, the Frog King or something?
You know what? Then when the movie came out with Val Kilmer,
yes,
that the Doors exploded back into popularity while we were in high school. You're well aware of that.
It kind of inspired you.
I like the music. I wasn't particularly interested in him as a man or a poet or anything like that, but I know people who were. So, and so I'm dating a person who is currently, and that was something that she's into.
Damn, I killed two birds with one stone there. One spin. Looking forward to today because today's going to be a little bit of for those of you that do listen to the show as opposed to my co-host today, we tend to run the gamut of old school, new school, middle school, and everything in between. Today we're going to be in the old school, middle school range, and we're going to have some fun with it. But Ben, I thought it'd be fun to bring you on because our guest today, and people have already read their dashboard, they know who it is. You and I had the unique opportunity to play for this individual at a formative period of our lives.
Yeah.
So I thought you were the appropriate guest. And I know that you're a soccer head. And
I'm trying to be.
No, you kind of are. Your boys play too.
Yeah, all three of my boys are soccer players.
Kirkwood, correct?
They all play at Kirkwood High School, or they all have, yeah. Jacob graduated, played at Wisconsin Eau Claire. But Aiden just graduated. My middle one just graduated this year. And I still got Samuel left, who's coming up through the ranks there at Kirkwood. Okay,
so you checked the soccer dad box.
Okay, yeah,
there you go.
Sure.
That was the only qualification.
Thanks.
You're in, man. For those of you listening, if you haven't caught up recently, last episode was fun. I'll start there. Extremely informative. We had Mr. Dan Gargan from Lufuse Soccer Club, journeyman du jour. Dude played everywhere. Toronto, Chicago, L.A., San Jose, I believe. I'm missing a few here. D.C. United. Now currently is the director of Lufuse Soccer Club. Brought all of his MLS pedigree. Was also a Hoya. Played at Georgetown. And is over across the river. Because, again, we're in Granite City at the time of this recording, and everybody's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Now they know.
Right.
Running Lufuse Soccer Club, has quite the staff over there. And we kind of dug into, St. Louis as a soccer community. Where do the clubs fall? Do we have too many? Is it too big? Is it not enough? What are we looking at? It was a really unique perspective given... they are by numbers, the second largest club in the area. They are also part of MLS Next. So they have the academy teams.
SLSG is one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think SLSG is close to 4,400 players. Fuse is in the 3,000s, somewhere in the middle there. Then it drops off precipitously from there.
Well, and I'm sure you've already covered it, but it's kind of the alphabet soup of sort of leagues going on for the youth players, and my son has fallen into that this year where I don't even know he's not playing slice. So that was the first for any of my children not to play in a slice of league. But Samuel's going, I don't even know what the league is, but we play in Boonville and we're playing in Jefferson City. And I think it's maybe a statewide league. You probably know better than I do what he's gotten himself into there. But
I don't think half the leagues know what league they are at this point.
Yeah.
Just realistically, because it's because how do you measure it? Number one, as far as like what is relevant, what is not relevant. What's the hierarchy?
Right.
And for me, I think there's two litmus tests. One is college pathway. Okay. Which leagues are producing college players or players are getting college offers.
Correct.
And I think that's 1A. 1B, maybe 1C is high school pathway, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a town like St. Louis Metro, where high school soccer is still competitive.
I certainly think that there's going to be collegiate coaches watching what happens at St. Louis University High, right? They're two-time state champions, repeat champions again. And they have to have good players.
Yep.
Right? So people are going to be picking over those teams. I agree with that 100%.
Well, Vader is coach over at Chaminade, has been there forever.
They're also very good. I saw them this year.
He put it best. We had a little bit of a roundtable back in the mid-100s episode. It was him and Terry Mickler and a few others. And the way he put it was 15, 20 years ago, college coaches would reach out and be like, okay, who do I have to take, right? Who do you got?
Right.
And now the phone call, they're not as often. And when they come in, it's who am I missing? Because they've already done the recruiting through primarily the academies. So they're looking for the kids that, can compete, right?
Right.
That to me was kind of the telltale of that's the shift. Because it's a law of averages at this point. It's numbers.
Right. And do you know the percentage of foreign-born players now versus a while ago?
It's actually the total percentage of international slots is less than 5 percentage points plus or minus than it was in the 80s, in the 90s, etc. It's just that there's programs now that were built almost exclusively on that. So that's what we see. We see Marshall. We see West Virginia. Obviously, Missouri State.
Missouri State is obviously the one I'm thinking of because I've been looking at their roster for multiple years because it's a scientific school and that's somewhere that my kids could land, and it just seemed impossible. The soccer and the academics seemed impossible combination.
So the coach there, Mike Siebold, which I'll just drop it now. He's scheduled. He's coming on the show again. We had him on a while back because Jared.
I will watch his show.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jared Bertrand, our co-host, he played there. He's a Hall of Famer there in the Missouri State Sports Hall of Fame, but soccer. So we have a relationship with him. And look, am I happy with the roster makeup? No, it doesn't make me mad. It makes me a little frustrated.
Yeah.
But in his defense, number one, he's not breaking any rules. Number two, he's tried repeatedly, and we know these kids, to recruit the best 2, 3, 4 kids from St. Louis, 2, 3 kids from Kansas City. Those kids are not choosing Missouri State. They want SLU. They want Indiana. They want other schools. Missouri State just isn't appealing to them, and there's a brand issue, right, with the locker room. So there's a lot of different things going on, and he's willing to travel. So if these kids are willing to kick full fare to a, clearly an out-of-state public school, and they can win, because since this is the one thing nobody wants to talk about, the numbers for him since 2018, that program, they have the highest winning percentage in Division I soccer.
Yeah, I did see that, and I think they started in the top 10 this year. They weren't able to stay there, I don't believe.
Correct.
But they did start there.
Yeah, so in next year, I'm sure he'll reload, and they're going to be competitive, and they're going to, fight for a tournament spot while he's trying to recruit American kids. So
Well,
So there's noise there.
Yeah, no. If there's effort to do it, and he's just being out competed, then that's how it goes. Right?
But I think to your point, I think some of the easier things to fix, and we talk about this a lot on the show, put an age limit on there, right? Let's just start there, just like the Olympics. You know, the Olympic team, 23 is the age limit, and you can have 2 or 3 slots that are, you know, the exceptions. College soccer can do that. They can also, like, you have, you know, when you graduate high school, you have X amount of years to get X amount of years of eligibility in. And if you don't do that, you lose it, right? So there's certain just logistical changes they could make that would solve a lot of that. And if they go to a 2-season sport, which is really close to popping off.
You're right. I heard that.
Well, that eliminates one of the portals. So if you kill the portal or cut the portal in half, well, then you're not going to have the rotation that you see twice a year at the rate that we see it.
Right, because the coach is waiting for a player to make himself available, right? And I know with Jacob and Eau Claire, I'm not super familiar with collegiate soccer, how it goes now, but I know with Jacob, he was just a bummer because he was already like 4th string or 5th string center mid, and then they got an All-American from University of Wisconsin-Madison, right? Well, guess what? He's probably better than you too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's life, right? But, you know, here it comes, and that coach was pursuing the same thing, right? Like, the coach's job is to win games.
Right.
You know, so you have a coach in that position where he's trying to recruit the American players, but he can't. You know, there's a whole world out there, and then he has to win, right? That's his job. So I do understand that. I'm not trying to, like
Yeah. I think it's extremely nuanced because you can literally make killer arguments on both sides of the fence in real time, and both sides make sense. And to your point, you just brought it up. These coaches are making a lot of money.
Right.
And if you do not win, well,
you don't get to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, the AD is going to be like, okay, next.
Right.
You know, because that's just how it works. So anyway, now that we solved those world problems, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I forgot to mention, actually, I told you that we're in Granite City. We're over on the east side. We are over at Pavia's place. Pavia's place. Actually, it's called the Golf Station, across the street. So 20, what are we? 20
Madison Avenue.
23rd and Madison. 23rd and Madison. It's right across the street from the fire station. So you're safe.
Big winner.
Big winner. So when you are this way, because I know a lot of you are just dying to come over here, be sure to stop in, grab a beer, tell them JB sent you.
Charge you double.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be like, nope, you got to go. We're going to take a quick break, get a refill. When we come back, guest of the day, more soccer talk coming up right around the corner. See ya. Hey, we're doing our friends over at PCDA solid today. If you are a family with a baller who's wanting to play beyond high school, who's maybe in a rut trying to figure out what to do, where to go, how to get there, take a second and go check out PCDA. Pre-College Development Academy is a gap year program where players can utilize the facilities, the coaching, the training, the league, the education component, competition, and the time to better prepare. Bottom line, with the college game largely getting significantly bigger, older, faster, and stronger, it might make sense to explore alternatives and use the time as an ally. Go to www.precollegeda.com for more information. All right, we're back. Ben, have you picked up on the theme? Music theme? This one's an obvious one.
I mean, obviously I know it, but
where are we?
Granite City.
It's called the Golf Station.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And our guest today
just golfed.
Again,
Perfect.
Two birds.
Perfect.
2 birds, 1 song. All right, we are back. Got some refills. Mr. Nick Pavia tossed us some more cold beers. Coming in with a classic, Kenny Loggins. Did anybody write better movie songs than Kenny Loggins?
It seems like no. Was he the Top Gun one too?
Yes.
Damn. Yeah. No.
And
NCAA.
And
basketball tournament.
Yep. And Footloose.
Yeah, Footloose.
You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Brian Adams is maybe the close second. You know, what was that? The the Robin Hood one, right? Oh, come on.
Robin, you have to be specific. I mean, are you talking about Kevin
He's a
Costner?
Canadian. I
Robin
don't want to
Hood?
talk about Canadians. We're going to stick to the American songwriters today. Joining us today, as I referenced earlier, also a Granite Cityan, was Ben and I, our youth coach in the formative years, ex-college, ex-pro, and now golfer, Mr. Keith Gehling. How's it going, Keith?
Good. Trying to get better at golf. Not easy.
Yeah.
Lifelong pursuit there.
Lifelong, but good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
We, I didn't know. I've been thinking about this for a little bit because obviously there's a few decades in between our current situation and our previous relationship. So I didn't know where to go first. And as you know, Ben and I were talking before you showed up. I think it'd be really important because, truth be told, you were kind of an enigma in my world. You were always just coach. You were Keith. I didn't know, legitimately. And I was old enough to be smart enough to ask the questions. I never did. I didn't know where you were from. I didn't know what your day job was. I didn't know where you had played because I was just so kind of enamored with practices and games and you being that person. I was really I didn't know where to go with today's conversation. So this gives us the opportunity to...
I know, I mean, I'm interested in sort of like the nuts and the bolts of it, right? Like, we grew up here, and like you're saying, when you're a player, like I remember my mom telling me, oh, the guy, you remember how we all had to go show up for tryouts, like, right, that one day, right? We all had to show up for this tryout. And all the high school coaches came out, and that was an official big deal, right? Like, for us as players, right, you're like, oh, shit, this is the one you have to be at. If you think you're going to play, you have to be here today.
Yeah.
And so we showed up for that. But, yeah, as a player, I would just say that the history of what happened here in Granite and how they were managed to be so successful and create so many really good soccer players, that was sort of lost on me as a youth because I'm playing, right? I'm competing. I don't care. That's the honest truth is I'm 10, 13. I don't give a shit. I'm trying to get on this team, right? That's the only thing that's absorbing all of my thoughts. Get on this team. And later finding out that, like, Ruben, who I knew very well from Soccer for Fun.
Mendoza.
Talked to him many, many times. And I'm just clueless, the man that I'm speaking to. Like, I can just say that I know that he's the best ball striker I've ever seen because me and Jason Richardson, Jerry's little brother, we'd be out there in Soccer for Fun either before games started or after all the games ended, and Ruben would come down from selling his goalie gloves or whatever he was doing upstairs, and he would just start striking the ball. And it's like right foot, left foot, volley, full volleys off the boards. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. And so it's like, this is where we came from, right? And like, when you're a kid, you don't really comprehend it.
So
that's why we're falling back now, many decades later.
So let's start
Find out the beginning.
So, quite the intro. Granite City, home. It's home now, but
Still live here.
As a kid.
Still in Granite. Grew up in Granite. Yeah.
Grew up in Granite.
Yeah.
North or south? Where'd you play?
Well, I went to Assumption High School my freshman year.
Oh, Keith.
Yeah, I went to
I
Assumption.
had so much respect for you.
Played basketball. Didn't play soccer my freshman year because basketball and soccer was the same season. Yeah. Transferred, came home. My brother graduated from Assumption. My sister went to St. Teresa's, graduated. I went to Assumption with Don Goldschmidt, my buddy, and came home, told my mom and dad it's not the same. It's got a little crazy over there, so transferred to Granite and had to sit out my sophomore year. If you transferred, you had to sit out a year. Played my junior year, and at that time it was still Granite City High School, no North. So that was the first year they had the state tournament.
Okay.
Won the state tournament, and then the school split. So my senior year, the school split, and I was at Granite City South.
South.
Yeah.
Coach?
My junior year was John Selmeyer. I don't know if you guys knew John Selmeyer, Spanish teacher. Mm-hmm. He was a referee in soccer. He wasn't a coach. He took the job because somebody had to take it, and there was a lot of good players on that team. And then my senior year, Gene Baker came to South, and Bob Kehoe went to North. So two pretty good quality coaches, really good quality coaches to South and North.
Do you know the origin of that? Like, how did Granite City pull that off?
Ruben.
Yeah.
Ruben brought him, yeah.
Yeah. So if I understand the story correctly, Ruben obviously was a deal maker across the whole soccer landscape, and knew that Gene was up in the north side. Had just started a Riverview
Gardens,
right?
Riverview,
Yeah.
And basically said, "Hey, there's an opportunity for you over here." So did you at the time? Well, let me go back just a little bit. Basketball as a freshman, nothing your sophomore year. You play junior year and senior. Was soccer part of the equation throughout that, or were you new to the game, or was it just?
No, I grew up playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up playing. And played in Granite, different coaches. Gerhard Moss was my first coach. Ruben for a little bit. Mr. Goldschmidt, Don Goldschmidt. And Don Goldschmidt, my friend, my age, and who went to St. Louis U, and Ronnie, we all played together. So
let me ask you specifically then, senior year, Coach Baker's first year, can you talk about first impressions? Thinking back, what was he like year one? Because obviously we all know how the story goes. Year one, though, that's a unique catbird seat.
Right. The first time I met Gene was just right down the street at Mendoza Sporting Goods. It was, I don't know, early August. I was in buying a new pair of soccer shoes, some Gerd Muellers. And I'm over there with the shoes, and this guy came in. I knew the name Gene Baker, didn't know who he was, didn't know what he looked like. And Ruben went over and talked to him, and he came over and introduced himself, talked to him a while, and, seemed like a nice guy, of course. Went up to pay. Gene left, went up to pay for my shoes, and Ruben said, Coach Baker got those for you.
Oh.
First impression.
That's
Right.
not too bad.
No. And that was Gene.
Yeah.
But from a team, a coach, and a team standpoint, Gene was a different level. Organized, creative, put in the time. I think we all knew that, we got a special guy here coaching us.
I love that. So let's talk about the next step transition, maybe what coach's role was in that, because clearly you excelled and/or were excelling, and a desire to play at the next level, that being college. Talk about your own experience as far as that first step and where you went, maybe how you ended up there.
Okay. I remember our practices. There were different coaches that would actually come to our practices. A couple of coaches would actually practice with us. Tony Tocco from Rockers. Sure. He would come. He would actually get out and practice with us. So Gene had connections, and I had options, because guys before Gene came, good players, really good players. They didn't really go and play anywhere, and there was never any talk about going and playing anywhere. I think Jimmy Forster, who was 2 years older than me, really good player, he went to SIU and played. But it all changed with Gene, and I remember, and not just me, but a whole host of players on that team.
What do you think it was about his introduction into the program and the accelerated emphasis on taking players like yourself to the next level?
He cared.
Yeah.
He just cared, and he worked. There's a lady that was at the high school, Georgianne Georgieff. She was a secretary.
Yeah.
She typed his letters, and she told me when Gene passed away, I said, how many letters? She said, you can't count them. 100? Oh no, much more. So, but I wound up going to University of Washington in Seattle through Gene. I don't know how that happened, but they took me out there for a visit, and It was the Pac-8 at that time. It was a school, state school, 32,000 people. Facilities were off the chart. It was a horseshoe stadium that was on Lake Washington that looked out at Mount Rainier, where I practiced a few days with them, and I thought, check this out. You know?
Yeah.
It's a long way, but I'm going there.
You're like, wait a
Right.
second, guys, let me show you Horseshoe Lake.
Right.
You think
right.
this is nice?
It was different than 2250 Benton.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just gonna comment that I think that, going back to Gene Baker, you know, the one thing that I thought he was really fixated on is not necessarily getting a player to the next level, but getting the student to the next level.
Oh, both.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it was just like, I think he took a lot of pride in how many kids from Granite that he got a college education for.
Right.
And I would seriously like to know that number. That should be a known number.
Well, wasn't it at not a maybe a retirement party, but probably a birthday party or a combination of the two? There was a slideshow in which somebody had done the research, and it was in the millions and millions and millions of dollars of.
It was Tony Scibiano.
Yeah,
And it was when we dedicated the field to Gene.
correct.
And he had put together roughly what and yeah, it was an outrageous number.
So you go out to Washington. You're there for a year,
2 years, two seasons.
two
Yeah.
seasons. There's your wiki page says there's a pause, and you decide to chase your passion in sales.
That wiki page is incorrect. And I didn't even know I had a wiki page.
I read it said
Well,
you do.
FYI.
No, somebody said I had one, and I looked at it and I thought, I need to correct that stuff because it's not right.
You should.
Yeah, I should. Right, and maybe I will one day. But
Well, so the playing taglines are accurate. You're in Washington for the seasons. You then are back in the Midwest. Tony, obviously, you had met him through training previously, so I'm assuming you had a relationship with him. What brings you back to the Midwest, to Kansas City, to Rockhurst?
I loved Seattle. I loved University of Washington. Big time schedule. It was then the Pac-8, so it was UCLA and all of those guys, and there's just all kinds of really good teams up and down the coast and into Vancouver. But it got my second season there towards the end. Mike Ryan was the coach, an English guy. Nice guy. Got along with him well, but there was this tension that kept growing and growing with him and some of the older players. I thought, I don't like this, you know, and a friend of mine was leaving, so I transferred to Rockhurst at Christmas, so semester. And then at that time, if you went from a NCAA Division I school to an NAIA school, you only had to sit out a semester. So I set out that second semester and was able to play. And again, Rockhurst was all because of Gene.
So let's talk a little bit about that transition, because at that time, you know, Rockhurst is kind of an anomaly within the broader soccer scene, being an NAIA school. You know, historically, everybody always like, oh, D1, D1, D1. But the reality is, in a lot of decades, there were significant powerhouses at the NAIA ranks that D1 schools would never want to touch. Rockhurst was one of those schools. Right. Sagamon State was another one of those schools, et cetera. We can go on and on.
Quincy,
exactly.
Yeah.
So when you did go there, compare and contrast the two. Because you go from the Pac-8, huge facilities, massive school, Pacific Northwest, it's popping off, and you go to the Dust Bowl of the Midwest.
The Rocco turf, that's what we called the field.
There you go.
Turf, right.
So what was, were you excited about the transition? Because for all intent and purposes, if somebody's looking at this from the outside, they're going to be like, that's a couple levels down. That would be the impression. Paint the picture. What was it like for you?
Yeah, when I look in my rearview mirror, one of the best decisions I ever made going to Rockhurst. It was all St. Louis players, and the schedule wasn't the same. We still played St. Louis U, we played SIU, we played UMSO, so we played some good teams. But you had to play some teams that were in your region that just weren't, back then, as good. But, like I said, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Lifelong friends, really good soccer, Tony was important part of my life, especially at that time in my life. And no regrets of going from the bigger school to the NAIA.
So let me connect the dots then. You're playing at a very high level. You're feeling it. You're in the groove, whatever that is. At what point did pro kind of start to percolate into the thought process, and how did you manage that process? Because typically it takes a team, takes an agent, takes an advocate. Obviously, individuals like Tony, et cetera, they're all over the place. What was that process like for you?
My junior year, we went to the finals of the NAIA tournament, played in the final. Quincy played a school out of Vancouver, Simon Fraser. Really good soccer. A lot of older players, like we were talking about off mic, from wherever they were from, 22, 23 years old. And these guys all went early in the draft to the NASL. They beat Quincy in the semifinals. They beat us in the final in the Rose Bowl, which was kind of a cool place to play when you're in college. And I had a good tournament. So I had some contact with a couple of coaches there that came up to me and talked to me. Mm-hmm. The next year, my senior year, we didn't go. We lost in the regionals out in Denver. So we didn't go to the final. But after that tournament, my junior year, and I talked with a couple of they approached me. I thought, well, maybe this could happen.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just wondering. I want to follow up on that because it's like I'm wondering. You're 21 years old. What are you thinking you're driving as a player, but what are you driving toward? Like, what would you say that your number one goal was in soccer?
And why was
at
it
that
not
time?
Why was it not a sales rep?
Right. Well, that's understandable, right? That's understandable. But is it to get it in ASL? Was that the highest fruit achievable? That's what because we don't know.
Yeah.
Like we grew up watching the Steamers, right? MISL is everything.
Right.
And my guess is that the true game, well, it is, right? The true game is outdoor.
The NASL was the goal without question.
Okay.
And when I said a couple of coaches came up and talked to me after the last game my junior year, they were from the NASL. So that was definitely the goal and the target, and that didn't happen for me.
Well, can I ask you a question then? This is a multi-part question. You as a player at that time, what position, what style of player were you? I have a pretty good idea, given what I know and who coached you and everything else. But at that time, kind of understanding how the NASL worked, and the international players and the domestic slots that were available, and you probably knew so many of the American players because a third of them were all from our backyard, right? So take a second and describe kind of what kind of player were you? What were you? What? And
that's the hardest question.
Well, but positionally, and what did you think was realistic? Because again, you're talking about a league where you do have Beckenbauer and you've got Pele and everything else. Where were you going with that?
Well, I actually thought it was realistic. All the teams didn't have Beckenbauer and Pele. All those, they had really good players, but there was room for others.
Yeah.
And my position would have been in the back somewhere.
Yeah.
Center back, outside, wing back, full back.
You kind of like Miss Tritt, right?
Like who?
Tritt
you.
Oh,
another Granite Cityan, right?
All right.
There you go.
What a career! What a career he had.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of those things though, like, hearing you start to paint the picture and put things together for me, because again, I didn't know. And thinking about some of the other names that we were talking about earlier off mic, are you surprised in hindsight? I'm going to jump forward in time a little bit, and then we can go back and connect the dots. But when you go back in time and you think about the coaching staff, your peers, some of the people that were just before you, some of the people that were right behind you, and the amount of pedigree that came out of your backyard from a town, literally a steel town of, at that time, 35,000 people, right? it just doesn't seem like it doesn't math out for it to be that successful. So my question to you is, what do you think the ingredients were? Why do you think it happened the way that it did?
That's a good question. I mean, Ruben started it all here, and so there were a lot of players that played here, and myself, for instance, when I was high school age, I would go over and play with Jimmy Forster, who I mentioned earlier, Don Goldschmidt. We would go over and we played for Ed Kirstein at Florissant Cougars. So you played with all of a lot of the St. Louis people. So, and I don't know how many people did that after my time and after I was gone, but that probably contributed.
Well, so here's where I'm going with this, because I have a theory, a working theory, because if you fast forward to today, 2026, and you look at these MLS academies that are affiliated with a St. Louis City or Chicago Fire, et cetera, and then you look at super clubs like a Gallagher or a Strikers, right? Don Ebert's team out in California, and Fuse, et cetera. And you try to connect the dots to the national team in particular. There's a debate that's occurring. Are we developing players in the right way? Right? Training and technical all the time. And that's what parents ultimately have been paying for, especially recently. But then I think back to your stories, you and your peers, you go over, you pick up games every Sunday night or whatever it is. Even when we were kids in the late 80s and early 90s, you go to Wilson Park, right?
Keith used to take us. We used to scrimmage Gallagher,
yeah,
the SLSG team, and then back in the day there wasn't 5,000 of them.
Yeah. So my question to you is, when you look at it through your own lens, your own experience, as a coach with generations like ours, those that were just after, and then you fast forward to now, and you probably are well enough aware, that it's extreme cones everywhere and flashing lights and all this stuff. How does that make you feel when you think about the development of players today?
I think that's been an issue forever, hasn't it? There was a guy I played with in Wichita, Jimmy Ryan. English guy. He's actually not an English guy. He's a Scottish guy. Played at Manchester United, Luton Town, and played with him 3 years in Wichita. And there were times when the coach, Roy Turner, wouldn't be there, and Jimmy would kind of start the practice. And it was just a game, a scrimmage. But some guys come out earlier, some guys come out later, but you just played.
Yeah.
I think you got to have that technical part. I mean, really good players are just technically sound and can do consistently the right thing. But when I was coaching later, my daughter was at Metro here and then became Gallagher. And you would just see a lot of teams out practicing kids. And there's a lot of cones and there's a lot of, and it seemed like sometimes maybe, maybe you lose some kids too when it becomes too technical when they're young. But it's got to be a combination, doesn't it? Doesn't it have to be a mesh of both? You have to have the technical part of it, but then you have to be able to play. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I think back to. Well, and I've mentioned this on the last few episodes. I'm currently working with a group of literally filmmakers that are massive soccer fans, with a couple of soccer historians, and we're working on a project about St. Louis, the history of St. Louis soccer, right? Focusing on the why, the total number of local players that have been capped, that have played in Olympics and World Cups, etc. And we're discussing this theme of, what is the real secret sauce, and I'm starting to lean into competition and rivalries. And I think back to Baker, because you led off in talking about his kind of where he was different. I mean, I at times it felt like he was more of a basketball coach than he was a soccer coach. You get the whiteboard in the locker room, and all the notes are up there. and it's like super prepared, but then you got to go out and play the game, right? But the other thing he would always do is he knew how to make sure we knew who not to lose to. Like we could go 2-20 of a season, but you're not going to lose to Collinsville, right? That kind of stuff. When you think back to your own career, your experiences, who was that for you? The rival, the games, maybe whether it was a market, whether it was it high school, was it college, was it pro, was it a particular player? Like, was there a 9 that you were like, there's no way that motherfucker's going to get past me today?
High school was Collinsville.
Of course.
High school was a big rivalry with Collinsville. We played. It was the old Collinsville High School, and across the street there was a bowl.
The bowl.
The pit.
Yeah, we played in the bowl. Did you guys play?
It's called the pit. I think it was called the pit.
Right, and
Freshman year we were at the bowl.
I've seen varsity games there. I have played there one time.
It was awful. Not as bad as the Gauntlet, but I love the Gauntlet.
Dave Sheridan got into it with a guy, and they start fighting. I mean, they're throwing punches.
Match in the stands.
People are coming out of the stand.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, we got to get to the bus. But there was not a straight line to the bus. I mean, and then got on the bus, and we're going out, and we're getting hit with rocks. I mean, it was a rivalry.
I miss that.
That sounds fun.
I wish kids would have that more. Like, these kids are really good players, but I've been to a lot of high school games in the last couple of years. It's good but cute. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got kids in high school.
I've seen so many. I mean, it's still really aggressive. For me, like and you change as a player as you get older, you know, but it's so much smash mouth. I think it's just a lot of sprinting around, a lot of smashing and tackling and slide tackling, and it just wasn't really how we were taught how to play, which was just keep the ball, take your time. Move around intelligently.
Don't let anybody around you.
Yeah, well, that's the man or the ball. That was.
Well, I tell you what. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get some refills. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about your own coaching philosophy. We're gonna talk about some of your pro years. Have a little bit of fun. I don't know. Maybe throw some more shade on Collinsville for a little bit. That's always fun. It feels appropriate in said environment. But we're gonna be right back. Keith Gehling, more soccer. Ben Hicks, co-host of the day. Well job.
Yeah.
Well job. Well done so far. Good job is what I meant to say. We'll be right back. See you in a second. All right. We're back. Rolling back in over here at the Golf Station in Granite City, Illinois. So I started off with the little doors for you, Ben.
Thank you.
Played a little Caddyshack for our golfer guest here. And now I'm just playing a KC Classic.
Works.
Always an honor to honor Sweetmeat. So we've been talking a lot of soccer. Keith, your pathway from the West Coast to Kansas City, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. So a couple of years ago, a supporters group here in St. Louis was sued for their use of soccer capital. Kansas City, it's not close, but you were there you were in the Kansas market for quite a while. Can you take a second, just for my own privilege, and compare St. Louis soccer to Kansas City soccer?
When I was in when I was in Kansas City, at Rockhurst, that was late 70s.
Well,
there was no soccer in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah, there was zero.
I wasn't going to say, because you mentioned it. You said I can't. Well, I went there because there was a whole bunch of
St. Louis.
Right. That's changed now, obviously.
It's changed, but okay. So, would you consider Kansas City a soccer culture town? Because off mic, we've just been having this discussion.
Yeah.
Like what makes sense, what makes it work, what is the secret sauce?
I'll say this about Kansas City. I think they were probably in front of a lot of cities progressively as far as fields. They had the Kansas City Wizards, the Kansas City, they've been there for how long now? They just built for the women's pro team, they just built I haven't been there, but my buddies tell me it's unbelievable. They built a stadium and I think there's like 4 World Cup teams that are going to be based in Kansas City.
Yeah.
One, they have the facilities for them to practice, and 2, I mean, it's a good location. It's like St. Louis. Right. It's mid-America.
Closer to the West Coast, which I think would be nice in terms of flights. Like flying out of St. Louis, the East Coast is easy, West Coast is a little longer.
Yeah, but it's central. It's Midwest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's so funny because I don't know if you know Eric Bergrud. Bergrud?
No.
So he's like, I think he's the current. He's one of the commentators for the indoor team KC Comets. They kept the Comets name. He's also like works for community development, bringing in events, etc. And we were throwing shade back and forth about soccer towns, St. Louis versus Kansas City, and he pointed out, he's like, well, we got 4 teams coming for the World Cup. And I'm like, well, that's great. St. Louis might have 3 players on the national team roster. How many are from Kansas City? We know the answer. Go ahead, Ben. It's 0.
Yeah, I know. The only thing that I can relate to this where I drive around.
No, I do this. Listeners, because obviously you guys aren't listeners yet. You will be after today. You have to listen to your own episode. Yeah. I have a certain affair with trashing Kansas City soccer. Because it's the rivalry.
The only thing I didn't appreciate was whoever did it, whoever put up the billboard on my way down 70 West that said, "Oh, you're approaching the soccer capital of the United States." I was just like, I almost threw up in my mouth. But let me just say that.
That's a big reach. You know?
Yeah, I mean it is, and they put it on a billboard. And it's like you don't see any billboards coming back there the other way. Why? Because when you get here, we're going to kick your ass at soccer.
So let's get back to. I want to talk a little bit about what we were just discussing, just kind of our own experience and with our youth club team and some of the things, because obviously all of our peers, teammates, them all. You are our coach. Can you talk a little bit about your own mindset or strategy or game plan when you decided to coach? I have to assume Gene probably had a little bit of a hand in that, but talk about that transition to coaching and what you were looking for.
Well, for me, it was a natural. I wanted to stay involved. That was one way to stay involved, another way to give back, and a way to support Gene, to try to develop players that would go to the high school and carry on what Gene had built, and that was a big part of it.
Did he approach? Did he approach you about that?
No.
How did you get involved in coaching? I've always wanted to know because I never knew. How did you get involved in our team specifically, or in Granite City scene specifically?
That's a great question, because at that time it was a true old school community club. Elks were Granite City, and most places their coach usually had a kid on the team.
Right. In this case, it was Mark Patton. And Greg Patton approached me and said, "Hey, are you interested in coaching?" And I said, "Yes, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'd like to."
So how did you know them? I mean, Greg's obviously was the athletic director at Granite, but
Greg was when I was in high school. He wasn't the athletic director then, but I knew him because of sports, and
he's a baseball player. Yeah,
yeah, Greg was a baseball guy. Yeah.
So when you started coaching. Again, there was a vertical relationship. Again, extremely unique. It doesn't really happen in today's market. Number one, because high school soccer is taking it on the chin a little bit with academies and the role that academies play, and everything is really dispersed out. But you were literally pipeline, or working with the pipeline, and given your relationship with Gene, how did that really work out? Because you're also coaching kids at a time where the success was, state titles were still coming in. So what was that relationship between the club? And I'm asking this question so that club coaches that are listening to the show, high school coaches that are listening to the show, there is a secret sauce. You guys had it. What did that look like between you and Gene, and the relationship between style of play or, training or whatever as it pertained and connected to the high school team?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a certain connection to style of play or training. It was just you wanted to come back and give back. And Gene was, like I said, a big part of that. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, there were, Billy Hinsey, for instance. There were multiple guys that were coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, like I said, it was just kind of the natural next step.
How hard was it for you? Let me ask one question, then Ben, jump in here. Maybe not hard, maybe fun, because you alluded to your own experience as a high school player, and these college coaches would come and some of them would play. And I remember as a kid on our team, you and Billy coming and playing. You guys were our coaches, but you had the boots on. How important was it for you to be part of that? And how do you remember that? Because a lot of coaches today are on the sidelines with a clicker and a board and are not doing that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think a coach can play too much, depending on the age group. And sometimes I wonder, when I look back, did I play too much in the practice? But when I was coming up as a kid, not all, but a lot of my coaches practiced with us, and I liked it. With Ruben, you could learn just from watching him, and others. Gerhard Moss, who I mentioned when I was, 6, 7 years old. I mean, you learn from watching him. So I think there's different styles. I don't know if one's right and one's wrong, but I think it is good to get out and play, but you just don't want to overdo it. I mean, you don't want to take over the games.
I'll just say that I think that I really preferred it because, we're very few times can you get the opportunity that you're going to step out onto the field or even a practice field, and we're playing against a professional, 2 All-Americans, like with Hinsey, when Hinsey was in the practices as well. I mean, and how can you not, as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, soak that up? Like you said, a lot of it is watching, and I become a big fan of the Johan Cruyff quote. That's, you play with your mind and your legs are there to help you. And soccer is a lot that, right? And so when you get to see these guys out there doing their thing, and I remember you putting on the air cast. So I'm imagining former injuries, and it's you get it, right? You get the path that you're on, but you did it. And you laced up and you played. And it was when you scored against us, which you did often, Opa, Opa. I don't know why you yelled that.
Do you miss it?
Coaching? I did a lot. Not now. It's been a while.
Because golf.
It's just been a long time. I mean, I don't. But I did, and I missed being involved. But we've talked about it. Things have changed, and it's fragmented a little bit.
Do you think you could thrive in today's coaching world? Like if you had the bug, and you picked up the phone, because you could probably call just about any club, and really if you wanted to go coach, you could coach. Do you think you could thrive in today's environment with the way the clubs operate today? And the kids, because the delta of haves and have-nots is closed. It's pretty close across the board. How would you envision yourself as a coach today?
Probably the same as I was before. And would I thrive? I don't know. I think I could do it. I don't think I want to.
Okay, so we're killing that idea here. Let's shift gears a little bit, because I want to talk about one of the things that I did notice today, kind of when I pulled a few things up just to get my dates right, October 19th, 2017. That date mean anything to you?
Give me a clue.
St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame.
Oh,
Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a
There
pretty
you
cool
go.
club.
that was in October, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. You were inducted. A couple of names jump out at me that you were in that group. One of them is the gentleman that we were talking about, Pat Baker. Legendary coach, just legendary human. Or sorry. Pat Baker, player. The name that I really want to talk about, though, Mike Sorber. Because we all know what he did.
Right.
From 94 on, and now he's in New York. Take a second and talk about what it meant to you, one, to be inducted, and two, as you look back, when you look at this list, there's Pat, Sam Bick, Pat Gaffney, Tony Kuster, Jamie Swanner, a lot of big names. You know, how does it feel being part of that club, and what did it mean for you to be invited?
Humbled by it, of course. And I remember when I got that call, and I hung up, and I thought, well, I don't belong there.
Who called you? Was it Jim Leaker?
Yeah, Jim Leaker, who, by the way, I mean, everything he does for soccer in St. Louis, and especially the Hall of Fame, is off the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jim Leaker, and it was a good call, but, like I said, you just kind of feel like you know some of the names that are in there, and you're like, oh, boy, I don't know if I belong. But, I was humbled. It was a very nice night. I had a lot of people there, a lot of people that came from out of town, a lot of guys I went to school with at Rockhurst, local Granite City guys, friends, family. I had some guys I played with that were out of town that came in. So it was a nice night.
Was Coach there?
Oh yeah, Coach was there. Tony was there. Toko. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I didn't have anything. I'm sorry. I was listening.
He's a fan now.
Gene was actually. Gene said to me, you ought to. I'm not going to use the right term. Apply for the St. Louis Hall of Fame, and I don't think he'll apply. But I kind of blew it off, and he came back to me and had a, fill this out. And I didn't do it. I remember we were riding over to a St. Louis U basketball game, and he said, did you, have you put your resume together, I guess is what you would say. I think he had nominated. But anyway, I said, Gene, no, I haven't. I don't feel right about that. And he said, well, I want you to do it, and I want you to do it before I'm gone. So I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things that you're no different than so many individuals that we've talked to that also have those green jackets, in so much that it's really it's funny. As players, the spotlight's fine. If I'm on the field playing whatever, talk about me all you want. That's what I do. But when it comes to these accolades, there becomes this thing where, well, no, I played on great teams, or I had a great coach, right? The deflection from the reality of what the individual's accomplished, starts to pick up speed. So my question to you is, when you did step up, make your speech, who'd you talk about?
Well, that was the best part of it, because I talked about three people: Ruben Mendoza, Tony Toko, and Gene Baker. So for me, that was, a stage, an audience where you could talk about these people that meant so much to me growing up, and even, being an adult. So that was the best part.
Last question. It's my favorite question of all episodes. I ask, and since neither of you listen, it's going to be new to you, but for listeners, they know the it factor, which is across all sports. It's one of those things, like when it comes to basketball, we're like, okay, Jordan, he had it, right? When it comes to soccer, though, it's so subjective. In your experience, give me two names. Number one, player that you played against, whether it was on your own team or played with or against. Who's that player, and what would you describe as the it? And then as a coach, who is that kid that you're like, yeah, it? Go with pro life, college life first.
Pro life player that I played against and played with too.
Either or. Could be somebody that was on your team and you're like, that dude's got it, we're going to win. Or you're about to play a game and you're like, that guy's got it, we're in trouble.
If you're going to say Steve Jungle, cancel the question.
Everybody says that's who I was thinking
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, that's who I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But there's a guy I played with, Danish guy, Jürgen Christensen, that what a character to start with, and a competitive, ultra competitive person, but skill-wise and what he did, I mean, there were so many good players in that league, and that's why he did so well and had that run, and that's why there were 18,000 people in the arena, and Wichita would have held 10,000. There'd be 10,000 people in the Coliseum, but Jürgen would do things every once in a while, running with the ball, and maybe somebody's got a great step over move, and you kind of knew what they were doing, but they were so good at it, and they read it so good. There's nothing you could really do except just kind of stand it. But Jürgen would do something and go by somebody, and you think, what was that? And you never see it again. And I don't know anybody else that was like that. I mean, he was. Pat McBride told me one time about Jürgen. He thought at this one point that he was the best player in the league.
Really?
And could have been. Yeah, he was unbelievable.
So then as a coach, describe maybe a player, or it doesn't need to be a name, but describe the player characteristic that you would look for in the event that you were like, that kid has it. How would you describe that?
I mean, it'd have to be, you have to start with desire and have to start with really wanting to be good. I mean, there's a lot of, when you're coaching kids, there's a lot of players that you look at and say, boy, they've got this and this, but, do they really want to be that good? And do they really want to, what's their game plan? What's their goal? So I guess that's the main thing. I mean, you got to have a certain skill set, and you have to have a certain athletic, physical ability, but you have to have that desire and the I want to be somebody special.
The mental side, right? Because anybody can juggle. You could teach anybody to juggle. It's hard to teach somebody how to win.
Yeah, it's and I think it's probably even a lot tougher for kids today because there's so many. I don't know. There's so much going on with kids, and there's a lot of pressure on a lot of young players now, and I mean, sports are different than when we grew up. When I grew up, you played baseball during the baseball season, you played basketball during basketball, and you played soccer during soccer, but you also played every day outside, with your buddies. So
created real athletes. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little different. Well, this is fun. Did you have fun?
Oh, I liked it. Yeah.
We need to bring Billy Hansen back and do it again.
Well, if we're gonna get Billy, we have to go over to F-Bag over
where's
in
he
Fenton. He's in.
Well, yeah,
Fenton.
but I'm in Fenton. We can do it at my house, or we can do it wherever. I know all the Fenton bars. I live there.
Well, do you remember Chuck Nash?
Chuck? No, I don't. Chuck Nash.
He's a little younger. He Clemson. He went to Clemson. He was St. Mary's kid.
Oh, okay.
Went to Clemson. Was on their national championship. He's over there running the show at F-Bag. And Billy
I've heard Billy mention this.
So so then the kid at Summit, that's Hensey's kid for sure.
Yeah.
He's Missouri Player of the Year. His name's Billy.
Oh yeah. He went to Loyola.
Okay.
Yeah.
He started at Summit, and then
and then he went.
That's his boy, right?
Yes, he went with the Chicago Fire. Not sure if he's still with them or not.
Small world. Love it. Granite City's everywhere, baby.
No, yeah, you get outside of here and there's a Granite guy. There's a Granite guy doing something soccer everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Keith Gehling, thank you so much for joining. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, JB.
It's been good. Ben, well done. You're welcome back.
He's a natural.
If you get Billy Hensey back, I'm coming. And Keith will come with him. I'm coming. Even if you just got Billy Hensey, I would come.
We'll do that. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Peace.
Like, review, follow, share. It's all free. I got low self-esteem. I'll look for those clicks. Until next time, Soccer Dad Pod. See you.
Thank you.